I mentioned earlier that Kelly Lookenland served as our script supervisor for this episode, and as I remember, maybe she didn't do the entire episode. She was working on Touched by an Angel most of the time. Our script supervisor, who did most of the series, Rebecca Paulus, or Becca, she wasn't able to join us at the very beginning, but she did come on after just a little while shooting without her, and continue with us for the rest of the series. So, and of course, we all loved Becca. I think she just had another show she was working on, so when she hired on, just scheduling conflict, but then she was with us. Also, these first episodes, we had our camera operator. Oh, I don't recall his name. He was able to work with us for the first, 6, 7 episodes, and then we got another guy who stuck with us for the rest of the run. And so the camera operator I think of most is Rory Knepp, who's still out there doing camera operating. Has done a lot of shows in the meantime, and we had a ball with him. Not that we didn't like the camera operators we had before, but of course we our core family of crew members that we really loved. Who came on board and stuck with us for most of the show. We all have fond memories of them and seem to know them the best. Oh, did you notice that moment just there where, okay, here's Claire and Russell having a romantic moment, and Josh had to just look at it and kind of roll his eyes because, he wasn't able to have a romantic moment. His was cut off by his dad. All right, one detail here that may not be that significant to anyone else, but I certainly remember, is off in the distance, there was a little lot where there were a bunch of cars and trailers, maybe old boats and campers and things were parked back there. And so it just didn't quite fit with what we were doing in the story. So they parked a semi-trailer back there just to kind of block the view of that lot full of old cars and trailers and stuff. So I'll point that out again when we get a better shot of it. Something that I find kind of amusing when they, again, are establishing who these characters are is they've got Russell Greene. Now, Russell Greene, they've mentioned something about how he himself got a Purple Heart. And that maybe he's receiving some sort of disability. Even I can't remember if that was mentioned in an episode. He's also receiving some sort of severance pay from the old factory job back before they went to Chicory Creek before the pilot episode. There's that semi-trailer I told you about that was blocking the view of the lot full of cars. Okay, so I started to mention in the previous segment, Russell Greene, the character, they've established that he's getting a little bit of pay from his old job, some sort of severance package, but he's going to be doing some odd jobs as they travel around to make enough money to keep going. And Claire is also going to maybe find some substitute teaching jobs, and this is going to be enough to at least pay for gas and food and keep them going on the road. They're not going to become millionaires, but they're going to get by. So, here's Russell. He's a working class guy, but he's also a veteran. He was in Vietnam. He's a Vietnam veteran. He was in the Navy. He was a Navy SEAL. It's just like it gets better and better and better. As far as Claire Greene, she's a teacher. She's a good teacher. Oh, she's a great teacher. She has a master's degree. That's something that wasn't originally brought up, but yeah, master's degree. We'll explore that in a future commentary when it gets a little bit over the top. All right, I mentioned that the props guys are always very careful when they have guns and weapons in a show. If they're fake weapons or if there's for some reason real weapons, they are always very careful about how they're handled and how the actors handle those weapons as well. I don't remember if this was a real gun. Maybe maybe it was, and it had its firing pin removed, or there's something that could have disabled this gun, or maybe they had one gun for close-ups and another for the not close-ups. I don't remember. granted, this is I'm recording this commentary in January of 2015, and this production was happening in July of 1996, so I don't remember all the details. I will tell you, though, something that I find interesting and somewhat amusing about props guys who, all the ones I've known working on movie crews, tend to be very knowledgeable about guns and also about guitars. Now you could say, well, of course they would be knowledgeable about those things because those are things that they are often called upon to handle within the context of their job. But the guys that I've known, they genuinely seem to be very interested in guns and guitars. So this is kind of funny. They know a lot about guns, and a lot of them are hunters and things like that. But they just know what guns do, what kinds of guns do what, how to hold them. Just again, part of the job, but also there's a genuine interest there. Our props head of the props department on this show, Ian, was a hunter, but mostly kind of an outdoorsman, loved to fish. Great photographer and just an avid fisherman, and just loved it. Had these, trophy pictures of, these giant fish that he would go get. And the sound guy on Touched by an Angel, Steve, was also a very avid fisherman. So I think if Steve and Ian got together sometimes, they did some fishing. Amazing. Would have been fun to be there. I'm not much of a fisherman myself, but I do appreciate those who are into it. All right, I should stop long enough to explain a little bit more about the plot of this episode, because I haven't given you enough time to listen to any of what anybody else is saying in the show. Partly because, I'm not here to bootleg the show and distribute it myself. I'm just here to comment on it, which is sad because this show is not available on DVD or I don't think on VHS. It's never been officially released except for when it's on TV somehow. It was on CBS originally. It then aired in syndication on the PAX channel, maybe the Hallmark channel, the Gospel Music channel, a channel called UP for Uplifting Television, UP, whatever that. These are the places where you could see this episode. But you couldn't just go out and get the DVD or get it from Netflix or whatever, because this particular episode is nowhere to be found unless it happens to air on one of those other channels I just mentioned again. So since I've been talking, you haven't maybe been able to follow the plot. The plot is the Green family's out on the road. They're not sure Russell's not sure what he needs to do to follow the mandate of his angel mentor, Tess. He sees a man of the cloth, a minister, tries to talk to him. The minister thinks, oh, this guy's crazy. He's coming to me talking about angels. What do I do? He hands him some cash and then takes off. And so Russell, it's kind of implied that he decides, let's use that cash and do something nice for the family and stay at a nice hotel, a motel, where we can have, a comfortable bed, a hot shower, and not just be living in a camper. A little treat for the family. Every now and then we've got to do something like that. So he's going to use the money from the preacher to get that done. But he can't because the woman says, oh, you're Green from Chicory Creek? Well, there was another Green from Chicory Creek, and he owes me money, and I think he's a thief, and I don't do business with a thief or a brother of a thief or the nephew or son of a thief. I want you guys out of my life. And so, but then they come back and decide they're going to help this woman fix up her motel because she's on hard times, and, well, they're looking for someone to help. So, Nathaniel, troubled kid, he's got his father's Purple Heart. He's interested in guns and stuff. He finds a gun in the motel office drawer, and he starts messing around with it. And at this point in the story, they've figured out he has a gun, and now they're just worried sick about it. We've also, at this point, learned a little bit more about Marion Ross's character, who is the manager of the motel. And we find out that in her past, her boyfriend robbed a bank, and it was her father's bank. Then the father lied about how much money was stolen from the bank, and so he got the insurance settlement, and it was more than what was actually stolen from the bank. So then the father got in trouble. The father went to prison. The boyfriend never came back, and she just stayed at the motel where her boyfriend always said he was going to come back for her. And that's where she's been stuck in this rut of her life. And this gun that you see here is the gun that her boyfriend had used. And so it's just this thing she clings onto as she's clinging onto her, her stalled life with all these bad memories of the two men she loved the most, turning out to be, disappointing guys. And so Nathaniel finds the gun. Then the family all thinks, what's going on? Nathaniel fires the gun at a cloud, it turns out. They're all worried that he might have hurt himself. He didn't. Russell gets the gun back from him, and they have a nice heart-to-heart here and find out that Nathaniel, well, he's just a mixed-up kid who's mad at his dad and mad at his whole situation, and he just needs someone to love. And so Russell says, okay, we're here to love you. In the background, back there, you can see the Great Salt Lake. That is the Great Salt Lake back there behind the cars on the interstate. This story supposedly, I looked it up, was supposedly taking place in Arkansas as the family's on their way from Chicory Creek to Denver. But that's the Great Salt Lake back there in the background. So that's not Arkansas. This field where you see, in the background, and they're sitting under this tree, is all just very close to the same location as the motel, the real, motel location that you saw there, and the truck stop that you saw at the very beginning of the episode. They're all just within a very short distance from each other, probably less than a mile. So we were using this field back there for the family running around looking for Nathaniel and trying to catch him before something went really horribly wrong with Nathaniel and the gun. It's interesting, all the Russell Greene running around stuff. We shot that first thing in the morning after breakfast one hot July day. And I remember Gerald McCraney kind of joking around with the director about, oh, look what you made me do. I'm out here running around in the heat right after breakfast on a full stomach, and I'm running through this field. Oh, this is awful. But you can see a little bit of sweat on his forehead there. Yeah, it was hot. It was July, and it's the middle of the desert, west of Salt Lake City. So it's a little bit hotter, drier, more desert miserable, if you will. Where we are here, a little bit more miserable than Salt Lake City, which is hot in and of itself in July. And so this is all memories, yes, real life, hot summer day. The other thing that's really crazy about watching this, and this is just a personal note for me, is that Gerald McCraney, the actor right here, in real life, when we're shooting this scene, is about the same age that I am now in real life, all these years later. I was his stand-in back then. I was just this young guy in my, I was what? I was just 30 years old when I started working on the show. And now here I am, almost as old as he was. That's just weird, because, I still think of him as being much older than I am, even watching him here. Oh, he's a lot older than I am. But that's how old I am. That's crazy. Anyway. And of course, the young actor Eddie right here, he's 8. I believe his birthday was in the fall, and so he turned 9. Not too long after we shot this. But this is a lot to ask a young actor to do. A very heavy emotional scene, and he always delivered the goods as far as that one. I was very impressed with how well he did, and also I just have to say, very impressed with how much of just a regular kid he was, off screen. He's just a regular kid, not what you would think of as like some child actor, bratty kid with an awful family and stuff like that. No, there's none of that going on. All the young actors we had on the show were just really delightful to be around off camera. Just fine, well-adjusted young people, which was kind of nice. Well, I mean, not just kind of nice. It was wonderful. As far as our veteran adult actors, well, they're just veteran adult actors. I did hear Wendy Phillips once talk about how she enjoyed a certain aspect of living out of the Hollywood, hub of show business. That being out here living in suburban Salt Lake City and working on a show like this kind of allowed her to more fully appreciate and concentrate on the performance, on the work, and not all the other bells and whistles of the industry. Oh, there's a little something on screen because I was recording this off of a satellite receiver at the time. So I'm not going out of my way to dress up the quality of what you're seeing to try and make it bootlegable. That was just a defect on the original recording. I'm leaving it there. That well that you saw was obviously fake. They dropped a gun into this pipe that even though a sound effect made it sound like she had abandoned the gun and it just fell down into this deep well and she was never going to see it again. In real life, it was just a very short little piece of pipe. Of course, because we weren't going to throw a gun into a real well. Nah. Okay, a real child here, and I think this was the night that it was the opening ceremony for the Olympics down in Atlanta, because we had to wait until it was night, and so there was Marion Ross watching TV in her trailer, waiting until it was dark enough for us to shoot her scene. And that about wraps it up for this episode of Promised Land, being the first episode. I still consider it the first episode. In my mind, even though for fans of the show, the first episode was the Expatriate episode. But to me, this just makes sense, and in my memory, this is the first episode of Promised Land in the can, and we're done.